All right, now that we've made our face mask, we're going to insert some wire across the top. People have asked what they can use for this. Anything that's not going to destroy itself when wet is fine. Obviously, things containing iron would be a poor choice. That oxidation reaction is a bad one. Rust will cause problems. Aluminum is fine. Copper is fine. I've got some examples here. I've got 18 gauge and 20 gauge floral wire. That's absolutely fine. Craft wire is absolutely fine. Insulated electrical wiring is absolutely fine. And we've also had electric fence wire, which works as well. I've got here a pair of diagonal cutters and needle nose pliers and a piece of the wire here, a length of it. Now, in order to measure enough here, I'll put on the website exactly how long I feel it is, but a quick measure for whatever you've made is to put the end of the wire just up to this line here where it crosses itself. That's going to be the edge of the wire up to the top. Hold that in place and then measure to the edge here, this cross as well. So that would be a sufficient measure. And if you do that and cut it there, you'll notice that for the medium size, it is about 8 inches. And it is, in fact, about that long. In order to make certain this wire doesn't come flying out the front of your mask or during washing poke a hole in it or cause stabbing issues into your face, you're going to want to make certain to round the edges. So I take my needle nose pliers and I make a little J out of that, and then I go ahead and crimp that closed, and then I'm going to grab my needle nose pliers for this end and I make a little J out of that and I crimp that closed. The next thing to do is to feel for sharp edges. If you feel any, you can go ahead and use your needle nose pliers to smooth them out a little bit, bearing in mind that there may be some zhuzhing that needs to happen once it's gone through the wash. If you've sewn this well, you will have an open channel here. It looks like it might be closed, but it is in fact open. And you will fit that wire straight through the bridge across. Now, this is a portion where your seam allowance sewing matters. If you find that your wire does not fit through on one side, you can go ahead and turn the mask over and attempt to fit the wire through on the other side. Because you sewed that seam allowance down in one direction, you'll find that it does fit through in one way. I feel with my fingers here, and I can feel that it's just about out of the way of my stitching. I plan to stitch this shut right here along this row of stitches on this edge, and so first I need to get the wire out of the way. Do not try to put the wire under your needle. You will break several needles. So we're going to go ahead and put my fingers on either side of the bridge. This is where the nose will bend. I'm going to go ahead and make it a V. Stretch the fabric past the end. And I'm going to stitch right here along this line. Again, if you would like to move for a guide on these trickier stitches, your needle back to the center position, you may absolutely. And then my other suggestion for this part is actually that you start sewing on the line, the little cross that's made, and that you reverse stitch off the edge of the mask and then back down onto it so that you have more control where you're stitching. So again, I will show you that once I free this. You're going to go ahead and stitch right here where you've already got a guide from your other stitches that were put in. You can go ahead and start on the fabric, reverse up the mask, and then sew straight down on it, making certain that your stitches are more secure and that you're using your mask as a guide so you don't drive yourself nuts trying to place that. I go ahead and nip off all of those little tiny scrappy bits there. And then your mask is almost ready for wearing. Now, a note about this is obviously a very marked point here. When you are putting this on your face, you're going to go ahead and press this into your nose, and then you will curve this part out and around to suit your face shape. I have a picture of what the wire ends up looking like inside your mask so that you can kind of get an idea of that. Actually, not a picture, rather, I have a piece of wire for you here. So you can see this is the shape that the wire ends up taking inside the mask. This portion of the wire right here rests on your cheeks, holding the point off of the tip of your nose, which is where a lot of fatigue and discomfort comes from during repeated wearing. In a moment, I'll talk to you about strapping, which is the other portion of wearing the mask before it is complete.